Hi, this is Marcel of Marcel on Tech, and today we're talking about one of the latest flipping devices from the likes of Xiaomi. The Xiaomi Mix Flip is the first flippable device from Xiaomi, but is it or should it be your first flippable device? Let's get into it. Okay, so this is the Xiaomi Flip or Mix Flip, and it is, to be honest, very, very comparable to the likes of the Samsung available in the world and the Vivos and so on. But is it worth the money? Now, first and foremost, I paid $12.99. That's 1,299 euros. That's a lot of money. That is an awful lot of money for what is a pretty cool device, but is it the best one available? I'll tell you what I think. I think it is better than the Samsung because of the external screen, but it is not as good as the Motorola Razr 50. That phone has the ability for it to fully function on the exterior screen. Now, of course, it's a smaller screen, but you get full functionality. This device does allow you to use the exterior screen for, in this case, I can tap into my social media platforms and I can view them obviously in a miniature format, but I can do that very, very easily. And of course, you can respond to messages, etc. if you wanted to very easily. But of course, it does take up half the keyboard there, or half the screen, should I say. So it doesn't give you a lot of real estate in order to respond. But for quick responses and so on, it does work really, really nicely. So form factor, looking at it, first of all, the front screen is usable, but I definitely didn't find myself using it as much as the Motorola. The integration there on the Motorola is way better in my opinion. Now, of course, I'll put a link to that video at the top here with a card if you would like to see that one. But the Xiaomi here does have its pros and cons. So you've got a great, beautiful exterior screen, but usability is not quite as good as it should be. Working around, we've got a fingerprint sensor on the right-hand side next to the volume rocker. Fingerprint sensor is very good, very, very reliable. But I did find that I was getting a lot of accidental unlocks in my pocket. And what I would find is I'd take the phone out and the camera would be activated as well. I had that more than 10 times. You can deactivate certain, for example, double pressing the power button will automatically get you to the camera, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to do that every time. It doesn't detect brilliantly well that your phone is in your pocket, so it will just be operating in the back or in your pocket, and then I find that it's quite hot when I've actually taken it out of my pocket. So in that regard, it's not brilliant, but the usability of the front screen is okay, but definitely not as good as others that I have used. Working around, we've got a really, really nice, I've got the purple edition here. This is officially called the purple color, very imaginative there. And you've got two very much circular looking cameras there. So obviously the purpose of that is that you can hold it in what they call camcorder mode. So you can have it like so, and obviously holding onto the side. And you've got that functionality on the inside here, which is both in this portrait position or landscape position, and then repeat it again in the portrait position like so as well, whereby you can then see and control from the bottom there. Optimization for this device only works with some apps. So for example, YouTube is optimized very, very well, but then Twitter is not at all optimized. So if you have it in this half measure, then it's not going to split the screens up separately. So you've got the video at the top. As you can see from me opening it there, it's okay at maintaining certain positions, but if I want to push it back, it fights against me a little bit. So they haven't quite got the hinge right here, because it doesn't lock into position very, very well. If I get past a certain point, there it will hold quite nicely. Once I get beyond that, it's gonna have to straighten out. So when you've got it rested on a surface, you can angle it to a certain extent, which is acceptable, but then it's gonna tip back if it goes past a certain point. That is probably the most usable position, but I, again, didn't find myself using it an awful lot like that. But it's there and it's available, but not all the apps are optimized for that. Working around, it's a very clean build, I have to say. The volume itself is clear. It's not very loud, but it's okay based on its size. Certainly acceptable. It actually has an IR blaster. I love that Xiaomi still have IR blasters built into their devices, which is super cool. It's disappointing that other companies don't use it. Admittedly, I didn't find myself using it that much, but it is useful should you ever need to. It's nice to have in your back pocket. And the widget functionality on the front screen is quite helpful there as well. So you can totally customize what apps you want to have quick access to. And then obviously you've got full access to all your messages here on one side. And if you swipe across, you've got access to your quick toggles there as well, which is only half of them. It's not actually all of them, it's only half. You cannot scroll up to reveal the other ones. Now, opening up the device, the crease, it's there, but it's not really very noticeable. The panel itself, very similar to other devices like the Samsung and indeed the Motorola as well. Very, very similar, much more thinner dimensions. So here we're looking at a 21:9, so it's much wider, obviously, and narrower, which is good for media consumption. So in that regard, it's worked really, really well. And of course, most apps are designed for you to work from top to bottom, or bottom to top. So it just depends if you're scrolling, but therefore for functionality and for convenience, I definitely really enjoy this shape and size because it is very convenient to have in your pocket. It's not going to take up a lot of space. It's not very heavy either. And you can obviously open it up, and you will be using it in this mode mostly. And therefore the battery life has been pretty good. I've got about a day and a half out of it, and I'm quite a heavy user. So this is something I would use every single day, messaging, YouTube, social media posting, and recording video and taking photos as well. And it is about, like I'd say, about a day and a half. So I can get to the end of my day with about 30%. And then come the morning, it's going to need to be recharged. It's at about 10%, 15%. So the optimization could be better, but there is a problem. And that is there are software glitches. I've had more software glitches with this phone than any phone that I can think of in the last 2 years. For example, the Photos app for Google regularly has crash warnings. It says this app has stopped functioning. Would you like to stop or wait? And I often have to just press stop and it will crash. It will do that regularly on certain apps and it isn't difficult to recreate. And it is a bit disappointing from Xiaomi, who are well established. They know what they're doing, but this is obviously their first iteration of a flipping phone. So I'm sure it's something that they can repair with an update in due course. Since I've had the device, it hasn't received any more updates, so it's not something that they are necessarily working on quickly, but it does give you the report option. So you can obviously report this app crash, and obviously in time, hopefully they'll do something about it. The screen, like I say, is very, very crispy. It's 120 Hertz. It's very, very clear. It's really, really responsive, and I've had no problems with the actual screen itself or usability. Brightness is very, very good. It goes over 1200 nits. I'm in a very, very bright place, so it's very useful that it can do that, and it does also the same on the exterior screen as well. Now, what comes in the box? Well, the unboxing experience is a little bit anticlimactic, but you do get a charger, thank goodness. You get a charging brick. This is 67 watts. It's a big old charging brick there, and that will get your phone charged up well within an hour. So it is really, really good. It takes about 45 minutes, which is fantastic. It does come with a cable, of course, and it does come with a protective case as well, which I find to be one of the cheapest, ugliest cases that I've seen on any premium phone. But it's functional. It does cover it. It does protect it. It does sit on the back there very nicely, clips on, and is pretty, I would say, pretty good protection for the rear side. You do get a front one, but I think it doubles up the thickness, so I didn't like wearing the front one at all. So I left that one off, but you'll get a little bit more protection around the front there as well. But it's really, really like the cheapest case I think I've ever seen on a flagship flippable device. So they really saved in that regard. But is it worth the money? I would say no. Too glitchy, too expensive. The front screen usability is not what it should be. I would expect more from Xiaomi, but this is their first iteration. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of what they've done can be updated via software updates. So app integrations, glitches, and in particular functionality for the front screen can be improved over time. So let's hope they do that. But I would say for the money they're asking for, there is too much competition and too much available. That would far and beyond be much better for you to use than this device and to spend your money on as well. Now, if it drops in price and it drops well below 1,000, maybe 800, something like that, now we're talking, because the cameras on here are completely acceptable. You've got 50 megapixels across the board. You don't have an ultra wide camera, but you do have OIS, optical stabilization, which is really good. It does work really, really well. You've got the camera modes on most Xiaomis now are amazing. So there's a lot you can do. Of course, it goes all the way up to 4K recording. So you're going to get very crispy video indeed. But you're not able to have an ultra wide camera, which is a little bit of a shame. And I'm quite surprised that they weren't able to do that. But that's common with these flippable devices. So the camera for stills and for main camera is perfectly acceptable. So in conclusion, not worth the money, very nice build quality. The front screen, unfortunately, is not optimized as well as it should, and there are too many app glitches as well at this moment in time, but hopefully they'll be fixed in good time either way. So if you agree with what I've said, please let me know. If you disagree, I'd love to hear from you. Put a comment below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye for now.